Hi everyone, so welcome back, and first of all I wish all of you a happy new year and a lot of good luck in the year ahead. So very soon I'll be traveling to a country with very limited internet, so I thought it's actually a good time to just sit down and talk. Many people who have been watching our videos are genuinely interested in China. So some of you might be planning a trip to China, or some of you are just curious about how life is in China. So I thought in the coming few episodes, I'll make something more like a podcast. No traveling, but just sit here and talk. And in this episode, I want to cover a topic that many people ask me. That is, what are the things that you should know before traveling to China, especially for the first-time travelers. I also wrote everything down in our new website called www.littlechineseeverywhere.com, but I know that not everyone reads blogs, so I thought maybe I'll just make a video and talk about it. So in this episode, I will cover those topics, including how to set up your phone, what are the must-have apps. I will talk about mobile payment, the daily budget, transportation, hotels, food, as well as if it's difficult to travel in China without speaking Chinese. That's something that people ask me a lot. I will also talk about car rental, which is kind of new. So let's start with the first thing, that is how to prepare your phone. If there is one thing that you need to prepare properly before coming to China, that is to set up your phone, because it's indispensable. It's an essential tool in living in China, and we use our phone for almost everything, for payment, for entering the metro, opening the hotel door, or scanning the menus, visiting hospitals, etc., etc. And there are certain apps that you need to install on your phone, which will make your travel a lot easier, and I will go through them one by one. The first two are Alipay and WeChat. So those two are not just apps, they are infrastructure. We use WeChat as a chatting app, but also it's a payment, it's an e-wallet. The Alipay is also another payment app. We don't really use cash anymore. We use either Alipay or WeChat. And then there is Trip.com for foreigners to book, for example, train tickets, flight tickets, hotels, and even scenic zone tickets. And then I would recommend Didi for car hailing, and Amap for navigation. Amap in Chinese is 高德, it's what local use for navigation. It's a lot more powerful than Google Map and also the Apple Map. And besides, there are a list of other apps such as 神州租车, 一海租车 for car rental, 美团 for food delivery, 淘宝 for online shopping if you are interested. And then there is connectivity. So internet in China is restricted. You may not be able to access Gmail, Google, Instagram, WhatsApp, things that you used to use to stay in contact with your friends and family. So some people might suggest you to have a VPN. But as far as I know, many VPN providers who claim they work in China actually don't. And as an alternative, I strongly suggest you to use international eSIM if your phone supports it. And with that, you can have access to unrestricted internet. And also remember to set this up before coming to China, because once you are here, it's possible that you won't be able to access the provider's website or receive their email. So another thing is, it's also helpful to have a Chinese physical SIM card, whereas you can only do this when you are in China, because many important apps such as WeChat or Alipay ask for SMS verification, and with a Chinese local number, it's always easier. International eSIM numbers sometimes cannot receive the verification code. So all in all, if you can have those two, it's the safest option. So payment is probably the most concern for travelers, and in China, it's almost cashless. I haven't used cash for a very, very long time, and there are two apps that we use mainly for mobile payment. One is WeChat, the other is Alipay. So those two are the absolute mainstream. And the good news is that now foreign travelers can also link their foreign bank account to those two apps. And the not so good news is that there's often a daily spending limit. So once you hit that limit, the payment will stop work for a while and you have to wait till the next day. And then there is credit card. It is generally accepted in big supermarkets, in many hotels, or the major convenience stores such as 7-Eleven. So it works well in big cities. But when it comes to Apple Pay, I heard that it only works when that Apple Pay is linked to a Chinese bank card. So foreigners cannot use their Apple Pay in China. And finally, there is cash. Of course, I would advise you to carry a little bit of cash with you just in case. But if you rely on cash all the time, you may run into situations where people simply don't have enough change for you. All the hotels in China are required to register foreign travelers with their passport, and most middle-range hotels or international hotels are very, very familiar with that process. So you may have heard something like foreigners can only stay in a hotel with a foreigner reception qualification. That used to be true, but starting from the year 2024, the government has made a new regulation, and it stated very clearly that no hotel is allowed to reject foreign travelers by saying or by claiming that they don't have a foreigner reception qualification. So theoretically, foreigner can stay in any hotels. But in reality, there are still some hotels, those who are not very familiar with this procedure, those who don't know how to register foreigners, or those who are in a very remote region who have not yet be informed of such regulation may reject you. So to avoid that, I would suggest you to book with Trip.com, because on that app, all the hotels listed are very familiar with this process. It's an app designed for foreigners. If you use Trip.com, you won't be rejected at the reception. And as to the price, I would say the accommodation price really varies depending on the cities. In a first-tier city like Beijing and Shanghai or Shenzhen, Guangzhou, you can expect a budget room from $30 to $50 per day, but in second-tier cities or even smaller places, usually $20 to $30 is enough, and that's also my personal travel budget. Compared to many other countries, hotels in China still offer a very good value, especially when they are outside the major touristic hubs. Just to remember, try to avoid coming to China during our national holiday, that is early May and early October. So during that time, hotel price in popular places can really go crazy. So some travelers worry that certain places in China are hard to reach, but in reality that's not really the case, because the infrastructure in China is very well developed, and sometimes even some small remote towns are connected by buses. And for most cities, you can reach by plane or train or buses or a combination of them. And for most major cities, they are connected by the high-speed trains. And our high-speed trains are very fast, affordable, and in most cases, quite punctual. And within the cities, especially the big cities, there are metro system or bus system. And we use a lot of car hailing, far more than the traditional taxis. And for car hailing, I recommend you to use DD or AMAP. So you can get a much cheaper price compared with a traditional taxi. And for booking train tickets or flights, I would recommend you to use trip.com because it's really an app designed for foreign travelers. And finally, if you come during the peak season, remember to book, for example, train tickets in advance because they can get sold out quite easily. And again, our national holiday isn't the best time to visit China. Here's something that many foreigners don't know. You can actually rent a car in China, and in order to rent a car, you need to get a temporary driving license, and it's not that complicated. So you will need those documents. So firstly, your original passport, original driving license, a translation of those two documents, and your photo, and also you need to get a temporary residence registration form from the police station in the city where you are going to apply for this driving license. And if you have those documents, you can go to the city's 车管所 in Chinese, which means the car administration, and then you can get your driving license right away. And one thing to be noted is that with this driving license, temporary driving license, you are only allowed to drive a rental car. So if you want to drive your friend's car, it's technically not allowed. And if you want to rent a car, you can use those two apps. One is called 神州租车 and the other is called 一嗨租车. And the rent is normally in between 100 to 800 per day per car, depending on the model. And car rental in China is quite easy. There are many, they have services in many different cities. You can also give the car back in a different city if you pay a little fee. Finally, if you like road trips, I really strongly suggest you to rent a car because it gives you so much flexibility. You can stop anywhere, and also in places such as the Western Sichuan province, in Gannan or in Yunnan province, road trip is actually the best way because the most beautiful landscape is on the road. In my opinion, China is a food paradise, and it has the world's most diverse food culture. So in the south, it's more rice-based, and in the north, it's more wheat-based. The southern provinces' food is lighter, whereas in Sichuan or Guizhou or Chongqing, the food can be very, very spicy. And besides, we also have Korean food, we have Mongolian food, we have Xinjiang food, we have Yunnan cuisine. So the variety is huge. And also, if you have any food restrictions, for example, if you are vegan or vegetarian, you still have plenty of choices. So you can order stir-fried dishes such as 酸肉西兰花、清炒时蔬、干煸四季豆, or 西红柿炒鸡蛋, etc., etc. If you want halal food, you can choose 兰州拉面 or Xinjiang restaurant, which offers only halal food. But also in many normal restaurants, they have plenty of halal dishes. And finally, although many restaurants don't really have an English menu, their menu are with the pictures. So you know exactly what you are going to order by just checking the pictures, which is very, very convenient. The cost of traveling really vary depending on the places. For example, if you go to the first-tier cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, it's a lot more expensive. So you can expect a daily budget of $50 to $80 per day. And if you move out of the first-tier cities, if you visit second-tier cities or smaller places, China instantly becomes a lot more budget-friendly. So a budget hotel usually costs around $20 to $30, and a meal is only a few dollars, and you can travel very comfortably under $50 per day, including the traffic. So if you avoid our national holiday and if you focus on the second-tier cities or smaller places, China offers incredible value for what you pay. English is still not widely spoken in China, so in big cities you will be able to find some young people who can speak some English, but in smaller places, English is still quite rare. And to cope with that, I suggest you to install a translation app before coming here. And if it's Google Translate, remember to use the international eSIM to access their service. And if you have a translation app and with some patience, many Chinese people are very kind and very willing to help you out. So those are things that you should know before coming to China. And if you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in a comment area. Either I or other helpful viewers will help you to answer those questions. And for more traveling tips, you can check the blog section in our website, www.littlechineseeverywhere.com. You can also check our merch section if you want to support our work. And finally, if China has been on your list for a while, you are very, very, very welcome to visit. And I wish you an amazing, amazing trip. So that's it. Bye bye.